All right, let's do what I do and change exhausts. That's one of my great loves in life, not to do it. I'm always super angry and frustrated when I'm doing it, but then when it's done, it's like, okay, now I can check that off the list, and so we're going to do that here today. The sole setup, just to bring you up to speed, I think you do either over axle pipes or the rear section. I think that this car needs the valves open, so disconnected or eliminated, but when the combination, this setup is designed to be run with valves. I mean, it's a valved rear section from Sole, and so you can do some things. They were talking about someone on Renless had plugged the tube, the sound tube that comes into the car. I didn't do that because I knew I was going to be testing out the Dundon headers, but I didn't do that to try it out. But I think the best combination is over axle pipes with the factory rear exhaust with the valves disconnected, or you can do the valve controller if you want. I don't think the valve controller is something that I don't really care one way or the other about the valve controller. It's pretty easy to install, but not something that you absolutely need. You can just pull the plugs, stick a screw in it, tuck it up under the car, and call it a day. So what we're going to try today is Dundon street headers, because they have a giant, high flow. I think it's like a 200 CEL cat. But we're going to do Dundon headers. This becomes the over axle pipe. So this section replaces this section. They're spacing out or moving the cat further down the line. So we do need some extenders for the O2 sensors. But we're going to take and try this combination out. Dundon doesn't make a rear section yet. Dundon makes this setup for the factory rear section, and so we're going to try it complete aftermarket, and we're going all the way headers out the back of the car. I'll play with valves disconnected versus connected, and see if that combination works, and then I'll probably try the factory rear section with the Dundon setup and kind of figure out my assessment. My guess is, after doing all this stuff, I'm probably going to prefer to just have the gosh darn over axle pipes with the rear exhaust and factory headers and call it a day. But I'm a glutton for punishment. So the Dundon setup looks like this. So you have I believe these are equal length. What do they call it? I think they call it equal length. So these are equal length headers. And then, so this replaces this section here. You can see the factory section of the factory, a lot heavier. The factory cat and header section is replaced by this piece. Now, I've done catless before. On 2 different white GT3s, and I'm done with the whole catless thing on Porsches. You make some power, it makes a lot of great noise, but man, it makes a mess. Dyes everything yellow. You can't even polish it off. So it really jacks up the car, and so it's not something that I would recommend. It turns everything yellow. So we're going to replace the header, and then the original, the blue wire for the O2 sensor goes in this bung right here. And then of course we're going to reuse the factory gasket. Then we use, what are these ones called? These are accuseals, I think. I know some people don't like accuseal connections. I like accuseal. I think it works well. And then Dundon now on their new systems, which I hadn't seen before, will use these Moly gaskets, but it uses I guess you call this like a bearing style gasket. And so the gaskets will go in place and seal everything up nicely, so we shouldn't have any seal issues. It looks like a pretty genius setup. So maybe it's a donut, that was what I'm looking for, not bearing. So it's a donut gasket that goes in the channel, and then the accuseal pulls everything together nice and tight so we won't have any leaks. I think it's a pretty smart design that they've made some adjustments over. And when I had probably Dundon exhaust number 4, I don't know what number I had, but I had one of the very early prototypes on my 991 GT3. And then we go to our over axle section, and I'll have to kind of play with. I don't think these are identical. You know, we'll have to figure out which side is which. I don't know if it says in the instructions anywhere. You can go to Dundon's site and watch an install video. I watched it last night just to kind of familiarize myself. So we go, I believe it connects like so, come up over the axles. So you can see we're taking the cat from right on the end of the header to much further down the line, and so we need a lambda extension. So this is a tested connection to extend our O2 sensor all the way out to this bung here. And so what Charles and Jamie and the team at Dundon have done to change the game, now lots of companies have since copied, or at least tried to, is they're actually scavenging. They're using harmonic tuning, and they're scavenging exhaust gas flow to essentially, simplifying this, to create a vacuum that pulls air through the engine, which then makes power. And before they started doing this, none of the race teams, none of them were doing this, at least not publicly. And so this is a much more sophisticated exhaust than you'd think at first glance. And then you have your adapter at the end to then adapt to the multi-inlet rear section. And so this will work with theoretically, if an aftermarket or if this fits to the factory exhaust, the aftermarket exhaust would have to fit to the same thing. So this should fit to pretty much any OE replacement aftermarket rear section in the future. And then you have the same donut gaskets here, which I love this design. I think this is really smart. And so I think this should mate up to the sole exhaust. I don't think I'll have to reuse. I may end up needing to use both the factory gasket. I don't know, that may interfere with the donut. So we'll play with how this works. So to spare you the detail, to spare myself the pain of trying to do this all in one shot, last night I put the car in the air, I removed all the underbody panels, I took off the over-axle pipes, I took off the headers. You can go watch some of the Soul videos where I showed doing that. I think we showed it, so you can go check those out, or you can go watch the Dundon DIY video to show you how to remove all the panels. It's a bit of a pain in the butt on the one panel. You have to remove a couple of bolts before you put it on this lift on a scissor lift versus a 2-post, but other than that, it's pretty simple to do. All right, so let's get this thing moving. Okay, so again, all this has been removed. I took the back tray off, the center tray, and the one that runs all the way to the front of the car here. So there's 3 underbody panels that have come off. First thing I got to do is I got to trace this black line. So the blue line is the first line, is the first O2 sensor. So this one will go in that bung I showed you at the end of the header, and then this black one is going to have to go all the way down to the other side of the axle. And so I need to extend this. So I got to find the spot where I think this, what is it called, a lambda, L-A-M-D-A type connection. So I think there's a zip tie type fitting up here. I've got to cut off. I hate this thing come apart. Okay. So that pops off of there. Got these little genius little clips. I'm telling you, there is nothing in this world better than working on a Porsche. Just so geniusly designed, every part and piece. I've yet to have something on, I don't think I've ever had anything where I'm like, oh, that's dumb. Oh, okay, cool. You just squeeze it. I'm trying to get a screwdriver. You just squeeze the fitting and it pops right out. This is one of those things, like after you do it once, it'd be like, make perfect sense. But I can't quite see. It's gonna take freaking 2 seconds once I know how to do it. Oh shoot, just push it apart. God dang it, should have known it would be something simple like that. Oh my gosh, that's freaking genius. So good. Okay, so there's four total clips. The ones up top, you just push it like, it's like this, and you just push it apart and it opens up. Okay, so for once in my life, I'm gonna remove both O2 sensors and screw them in properly. Normally I just do the old reverse-a-roo method where you twist the wire like a bunch this way, and then when you put it in, you hope to get it right. This time I'm going to put it in the header first. There's a little red tab. You pop the little red tab back, you push on it, and it comes out. Okay, so there's our two O2 sensors. Now I'm going to take and extend this black one. But let's put them in place first. So remember, the blue wire goes in to the header. I hope. Yeah. And this is a 22 millimeter. Okay, so that's in. Let's take this guy, put it in place. It'll kind of sit on the studs. Now we have these genius triple square little screws, bolts. I guess they're technically nuts, right? So it's a little triple square nut. It goes and holds the header in place. So because these are spring loaded and it's sort of adjustable, we might have to kind of wiggle it around to get it fit. Those are my frickin' tooth. Oh. Keep your mouth shut. Stop mouth breathing, that won't happen. Ah, that was my good tooth too. Not the fake one. So you have to do a little twisting and adjusting. 1, 2. It appears that the GT4 header is going to be a little easier to position than I better keep my mouth shut than the GT3, but a little more distance. There we go. Nice, I'm not even bleeding yet. That's good. Man, Dundon is like the only company I know that uses T321 stainless. Just so much better. You don't realize it until some of them use like a 416, cheap stuff. Most stainless exhausts are T304. There's no need for it to be shiny. It's amazing how they've improved as well over time. I hired some master welders and stuff. The finish welds look really pretty. I think Charles Dundon was welding up all the original ones himself. Now they've got a crew, dedicated team. I like to think I had a little part in that. This is an M10. Now you don't want to tighten anything down at the moment because they're going to be adjusting and wiggling and getting things in place. The other question is, should I have run the wire? No, I can still get up in there. I was going to say, should I have run the wire before? So you want a wobble extension here, so that way you can get it. I got major whisper voice going on here today. That's when you know I'm working on something cool. I just love telling you, every time I take apart my BMW, it never goes back together quite the same. You know what I'm saying? This thing, it's incredible. It's like 100%. It's like I never even touched it. You know, every BMW, it's like I just slightly messed it up forever. Let's at least get these started. I just don't want it to be tight. Alrighty. Okay, so now we're going to come down so I can reach up in here and start to work on the over axle section. Alright, so let's test fit and see which side's which before I start putting gaskets in place. Let's say that's not right. I need to put some stickers on here and tell me which side is which. I'm thinking for this setup, I wonder if those donut gaskets are going to be the way to go. We're just going to have to kind of play with this to figure out which side goes where. Yeah, before we get any further, we're going to have to loosen up the rear section so that it's got some play. They don't make this exhaust for babies, so you got to be able to figure some crap out on your own. All right, so I've got to loosen this bracket here, I think. If I loosen that, just so I have some wiggle room. These are 13 mils. I wonder if that's going to give me enough wiggle room here. I think that might do it. Back to work. What you got? Something cool for on camera? Yeah, that's my style. Flip it.
Flip it?
No, just open it so I can see it. Is this a stretchy one?
Yeah, yes. 112 plus.
Oh, yeah.
This is the same one, but
I love them.
they match the heather on the side.
I love
That
it.
one's a tonal black, all blacked out, subtle.
Yes, I love this.
So that one's next month. This was supposed to be this month, but Richardson's on back order through the whole country.
Yeah,
Sucks.
that's freaking sick. Love it. So what we're planning on doing, yeah, I got some Dundon juice on there, sorry.
Extra.
We're wanting to launch new clothing each month, you know, new hats, new shirts, things like that. Is always our goal. Each month to have a new shirt. So we have a new heather green shirt up now. Susquehanna, I should probably start wearing it. I need to drop another a few pounds before I can wear those heather shirts. Gosh, I can't lose any darn pounds, man. I keep putting on some muscle. Lost a bunch of fat, but gained a bunch of muscle. All right, I don't know if that's gonna be quite wiggly enough. Everybody always wants to pitch me something though. I should, if I wasn't into this, I would just say, just freaking tell me right now in 2 seconds and I'll tell you if I'm interested or not. So we got an idea, something we might be coming out with that maybe someday. Just tell me. Now I gotta sit on the phone for an hour. I should have just said no. Telling you, in the early days, I spent half my life doing that. Well, you weren't here for my Carolina Mountain House cockamamie scheme, were you? I'm on it. I gotta book a trip up there. I'm driving the 4Runner all the way up there. That's gonna be a freaking miserable trip. So what I'm working on is getting a house in the mountains that's going to become, we aren't gonna say rental here at Obsessed Garage. There's no such thing as a rental. This is a, you borrow my house from me, I'm gonna let you borrow it for money. That's what we're gonna call it. I call it destinationog.com. I gotta get the white website. And I'm gonna have a house outfitted with all the frickin' stuff that I have here, and then some. And the motto is gonna be no entitlement allowed. You're not entitled to anything, it's my frickin' house. I'm letting you borrow it. When you borrow someone's stuff, you return it better than when you got it. That's the way it goes. That's gonna be the agreement. You use my house, you borrow my house for money. Okay, so that's gotta be the one. Found a house in Helen. I really wanted to be in the Highlands, but Helen is probably a better spot for what I'm attempting to do. Yeah, it's a little easier to get to, but it's not, I would want it to be a little further north. Okay, that's the setup right there. Boom. Huh? Yeah, I gotta get up there to go see. Okay, so we got the right one. So let's put our O2 sensor in. And then we'll put our donut gaskets in. And then we'll start to put it together. I requested that they let me rent the house, so I could go rent the house that I want to buy. Stay there for a week, then I could, yeah, catch the vision. I just know it. I've never been so clear on something in my life. The only thing that stinks is that the house, I did the property tax bill on it's $9,500 a year right now, but it has a valuation that's less than half of what I would buy it for, and so that means the property tax bill is going to go from $9,500 to $28,000. That sucks. A year, forever. And then since I won't have a homestead exemption on it, they can just jack up the price whatever they want. But according to my calculations, I think most years it'll cost me about $11,000 a year personally to own it, if I rent it 24 weeks a year at a pretty reasonable rate. Really reasonable rate. It'll be more like $5,000 to $6,000 a week. Is $715 to $860 a day, depending on when you're coming. So this is a giant 5,500 square foot house with everything, and I mean frickin' everything in it. It's gonna be sick. Okay, so here's our accuseal. There's our extension. And then this is the donut gasket, one of them, that we're going to put in here. Like this. I'm going to put it in the header and try not to mess this up. You don't want to jack up your... So the header's semi-loose. This we're going to put on semi-loose so we can kind of wiggle everything out of the way so nothing's touching. That's a darn beautiful looking exhaust connection if I've ever seen one before. Crap, can you hold this thing? This is a two-hand job. Two-hand deal. And it goes there. I'm almost there. Come on. Okay, cool. Travis from Dyn Audio is on his way. Gosh, everything German is better. Look at that. And then the bag has a little hole for you to stick your finger in. Open up. Just see. There's 1, 2. Okay, so those are the same size. All right, so it sits pretty flush in there, so that's going to work. That's genius. I like that. And then we're going to put the big one in here. Another accuseal. I should be more excited about this. This is going to be freaking sick. This is going to be the tricky part. Getting this to line up. Without damaging my... Let's pull this to the side like this. Boom. Nice. Okay. That's not too bad. So I'm hoping I'm correct in not needing to put the gasket in there. Let me get a couple of screws just to hold it in place to give this some new hardware. Oh yeah, these are stout. As you can see, we have everything nice and loose fit. We can line everything up, make sure nothing's touching, and then before we torque anything down. Let's put several of these in here. That looks freaking nasty, doesn't it? Freaking 90 pull-ups yesterday. I can barely lift my arms. Being fat and out of shape was way more comfortable. I'm hurting right now. I'm not gonna put them all in. Let's put our accuseal on. I think that's what these are called, or these V-bands. These are V-bands. Whatever they're called, exhaust clamps. But like, that's not an accuseal, that's a V-band. Whatever. You stupid. Okay, that's side A. I'm gonna do side B, and then we'll come back and start tightening everything up. All right, so working through getting the header tightened up. So what I'm doing is just sticking my finger in here, making sure that we've got enough clearance. You know, it's tight, it's close, it should be tight. But as long as you can see daylight, that means it won't be doing any vibrating theoretically. And so what I did, I tightened the header down first. So I tightened the bolts on the bottom, and now I'm working my way from header or from front to back. You notice I've got all my lines running down. Hopefully I can do it after the fact. This V-band is pretty close to the chassis, but I think I can see some air, so I think we're okay. The hardest part here on this is getting it. I don't want this poking out toward my tire, but I can't get a lot of turns on this. On this V-band or clamp or what, let's just call it exhaust clamp, whatever it is. So anyway, I'm working through this. So once I tighten this one, then I'll tighten that one, and then I'll tighten the bolts in the back, and then we'll go line up the rear and realize it's not lining up, loosen everything up again, tighten it down, loosen it again, tighten it down, quit for the day, come back tomorrow and stare at it for half an hour, and then it'll be done. Hopefully that won't happen, but that's usually how it goes. That's how it went with the Olin suspension on my M3. Only I quit 2 days, came back the next day, was re-inspired. But this takes like a million turns, and I don't have a lot of room to do the ratcheting. I can't really fit any Milwaukee tools in here, any power tools to get this done. I'm working on this band right here. So now let's tighten this one down. Yeah, Tommy, can you give him the penny tour, and then I'll have this tightened down and we'll start playing. That's the way you want to do it, folks. Gosh, it's way easier. I don't think there's enough room to get it on here. Oh, shoot. Well, that's better. Let's see if I can get it on here. Everything seems to be lining up pretty nicely. The rear looks pretty good. It's gonna be freaking 4 feet too long. Oh, my arms hurt so badly. We're actually pretty darn lined up here. I haven't even really messed with it. Let's do this. Yeah, this is better. Oh, that was my finger. Shoot. You're an embarrassment. Because no other dude has ever had a thing pop off before. It's never happened once to you. It happens to the perfectionist all the time, but not the regular guy in his garage. Never. It would never happen to them, Mike. It wouldn't happen. Can't happen. Won't happen. Yeah, this, you definitely want to use the hardware that comes with the Dundon, not the sole stuff. The only problem with these black oxide bolts is they're gonna rust for sure. It doesn't matter for me. I don't really have exhaust on long enough to cause any problems. All right, let's tighten up the back. Then we gotta figure out what we're gonna do with all these frickin' wires. I go from whisper talking to like whisper sighing at the end of it. Just stay on there for gosh. It's not that freaking difficult. Let's go. It's like you're like can see the end, but we haven't even had any hiccups.
Crazy.
This is why I took it apart yesterday. I'm on the plan to take my time these days, otherwise forget it. I'm ready to frickin' murder someone. How many turns does it take? Dear Lord. Okay. Now, O2 sensors. All this we just did was the easy part. Now comes the frickin' hard part. You got 75 feet of O2 sensor to deal with. Where am I going to put this thing? Oh, route this up to the heat shield. This is a Bryce. This got Bryce written all over it.
Oh, I'm sure it does. Tuck it up in there, you know, shove it.
That's a Matty move.
Maybe like one of those cars you see like below it driving on the road, and it's like the pans like just scraping on the floor. You see wires dangling.
Yep, that's the way I like it. Now, I hope, oh boy, I hope these are different plugs. Are they the same? Okay, they're different. Okay, good. I was gonna say.
Start figuring out which one's the right one by trial and error.
No, it would have been smart to keep track of it, but that's not how I do it here. And then it clamped in here somehow or another. Look at that. Nice. Take this little bro. Do an old up tuck. I like making up words when I do this fabricating. Okay, now what am I missing? Tight. I checked all these.
Make sure none of these are going anywhere.
Yeah, those are all good. You get some WD-40, do some hand wipies. Get the M3 out of here and fire this sucker up. Otherwise, you end up with fingerprints. You gotta wipe down the crime scene here. All right, let me put this down a little bit.
Get some slipstream, wipe it off. Not right off.
All right, so we're off to a good start. I don't hear any vibrating. I don't see any, can't feel any leaks or anything. You know, it's always going to sound a little, these cars sound a little bright when they're, Porsches generally don't sound good revving at idle, or revving and not idle, but stationary. So, well, I'm going to take it out the parking lot, do a couple little flybys, and we'll get some footage for you outside the car. I gotta get some darn centering pins for this thing. I think it'll be good. Got my valve controller working again. It was just simply the Molex plug came undone. So before I put, M3 ride height, look at that. See right there, Mike, that's the height. That's what I'm talking about. That look, right down that 3/4. You don't get that when you got the car up too high. Anyway, I got M3 distracted there. I don't know what I was saying. So let's do a couple little parking lot pulls. And then when I put it back up, I'm gonna open up the interior again. You have to pull a bunch of carpet out, stuff like that, and give a little more slack to that wire so it won't pull out again. it.